What do a football player, a Civil War general, a spree killer, and one of the shortest serving senators from Nebraska have in common? They're all buried here. Today's video brings us to Lincoln, Nebraska, specifically Wyuka Cemetery. It's a 140-acre cemetery, first opened in 1869, just a couple years after Nebraska actually became a state. And we, all of us, are going to make a trek across the cemetery today and find some of these notable graves and tell their stories. So let's get into it. We're definitely going to get our steps in today. Starting off in the GAR section of the cemetery, we are at the grave of John Milton Thayer, born January 24th, 1820, died March 19th, 1906 at the age of 86 here in Lincoln. John Thayer was a Civil War Union brigadier general, U.S. Senator, Nebraska governor, and the list goes on. He did a lot in his life. Born in Bellingham, Massachusetts, came to Nebraska January of 1854. He was a prominent in the early Indian Wars, colonel of the 1st Nebraska Volunteer Infantry Brigade, or brigadier and major general from 1861 to 1865. First United States Senator from Nebraska in 1867. Territorial governor of Wyoming in 1875, governor of Nebraska from 1887 to 1891, and fit the time in to spend with his grandkids. You know, I understand that cemetery videos are either really popular or really not. Some people enjoy them, some people just can't stand them. And I understand, I understand the reasons why. After I'm long and gone, all I'm gonna have generations down the line is these videos. But for so many people in these cemeteries, they don't have that. They're forgotten to history, 3-4 generations down the line. And this is kind of my way to help tell their story, and maybe somebody in a future generation somewhere down the line wants to know more about their ancestors and comes across this video or any of the other countless videos here on YouTube about cemeteries. Now this next headstone we are coming up to visit is Bobby Ray Williams. I was researching for this video and I came across a picture of his headstone and I could not put it in. February 28th, 1942 to August 5th, 2012. He ran his last yard. Bobby was actually drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals in 1966. Played 69 games in his career, 2 years with the Cardinals and 3 years with the Detroit Lions. In his first season at Detroit in 1969, he scored 1 touchdown off of a 96-yard kick return and averaged an NFL leading 33.1 yards per kickoff. In his career of 69 games, he returned 77 kickoffs, totaling on 1,934 yards for 2 touchdowns, and overall averaged 25.1 yards. And to think now, they just let the kickoff go right through the back of the end zone. Had to be fun to watch that guy run. Now, as we move over to section 28 here on the west end of the cemetery, you probably heard the saying that you can't take it when you go. That's true. But what they don't tell you is you also can't choose really who you're buried next to. And in this case, Esther Hart. I feel bad for her because she is actually buried next to spree killer Charles Starkweather. Now, for my true crime buffs out there, you have probably heard of Charles Starkweather. But for those of you who haven't, Starkweather started his killing spree December 1st, 1957, killing a gas station attendant, Robert Colbert, here in Nebraska, and ended his spree after being caught by killing traveling shoe salesman Merle Collison in just outside of Douglas, Wyoming. Starkweather was executed via electric chair June 25th, 1959, and was actually the last execution the state of Nebraska did until 1994. Now, his girlfriend, Carol Fugate, she was 14 at the time. Starkweather was 18, I believe he was 18 or 19. If you haven't seen it, I did a true crime location on the murders, the very first video we put out on this channel, so feel free to go check that out. So as I said before, you can't always choose who you're buried next to. Well, you also sometimes can't choose who you're buried with in the same cemetery. 5 of Starkweather's victims are actually buried here in the same cemetery. 3 of them are actually right here in section 35. Marion S., Betty Jean, and Velda Bartlett. It's actually Carol Fugate's mom, sister, and stepdad. The other 2 victims in the cemetery here of Starkweather's are Clara and her husband, C. Lauer Ward. Both murdered January 28th, 1958. And what's actually kind of crazy is if you see that tree right there, just on the other side of that tree is where Starkweather is. One section over. It didn't feel right to me to go to Starkweather's grave without actually acknowledging and visiting the graves of his victims, so that is why we stopped there. You have to remember everybody. Let's head to the next grave. All right, this next one took a little bit to find. By a little bit, I mean a lot. But we found it. Hazel Abel. You may not even know who she is, but you probably should. She was the first female elected to the Senate from Nebraska, and she actually only served 54 days before resigning. Hazel Hemple Abel, July 10th, 1888 to July 30th, 1966. She actually graduated from the University of Nebraska in 1908. Then she was a high school teacher of math, principal, president of her husband's construction company. She was a chairman of the board for Abel Investment Company. She was vice chairwoman of the Nebraska State Republican Central Committee in 1954, And on November 2nd, 1954, she was elected as a Republican to the United States Senate to fill the vacancy caused by the death of Senator Griswold, and served until her resignation on December 31st, 1954. After stepping down, she became a delegate to the White House Conference on Education, a chairwoman of Nebraska delegation to the Republican National Convention of '56, and a member of the Theodore Roosevelt Centennial Commission from 1955 to 1959. She was then chairwoman of the Board of Trustees at Doane College and a member on the Board of Trustees of Nebraska Wesleyan until her death at the age of 78. Now, as I said, she was the first elected female senator from Nebraska. She only served for 54 days before stepping down to allow another person to be, I believe, elected. May have been nominated, but she did a lot and paved the way for many others to get elected. I think to date there's been 60 female senators. We're over here in the older part of the cemetery, and I had to stop at this one. This one just really different, very unique, caught my eye. Our morning glory, Irmgard Christine, daughter of I'm going to assume Philip, and Alta S. Winter, born September 29th, 1887, died April 12th, 1891. You can see some people left pennies, just showing they were here. Here's another one that caught my eye for a few reasons, actually. One, it obviously looks like a chess piece. Very tall, very beautifully done. Charles H. Dill, 1821 to 1897, gone but not forgotten, along with his wife Emily P., December 2nd, 1832 to November 21st, 1908. But the very unique thing about this, other than the shape of it being a chess piece, is they're sharing it with the Smiths. George I. Smith, December 4th, 1857 to May 22nd, 1944, and Myrtle, December 11th, 1866 to May 17th, 1936. You'll have to forgive the background noise. As you can see, there's a major road right behind us. But we are over in Section 4, and I am trying to find Brigadier General Montgomery. And Section 4 is absolutely massive, and I'm having a very difficult time finding it. Brigadier General Milton Montgomery was actually in charge of the 25th Wisconsin Infantry for most of the war, and he lost his arm, his right arm, in the Battle of Decatur during Sherman's campaign down in Georgia. And I am still not, for the life of me, able to find his grave. And we're at the edge of the section here. It does help to look at the right side of the marker. Montgomery. Right behind this is Milton, his wife Ellen M., wife of Milton Montgomery. It's hard for me to read. Hopefully you can read it better. July 19th, 1832 to September 19th, 1892. And here is Milton Montgomery, May 3rd, 1825 to May 28th, 1897. It is really hard for me to read. After the war, he was awarded Brevet Brigadier General on March 13th, 1865 for gallant and meritorious services during the campaign in Georgia and the Carolinas. After the war, he resumed his career as a lawyer. And next to him rests his son, Eugene. So as we wrap up today's video, you know, I just have to say that I am always reminded anytime I come into a graveyard, cemetery, just how precious life is and our perspective on life. You know, we are day to day, just time flies by with what we're doing, but you come out here and you look at a headstone and go, wow, they lived a really long life. So don't regret anything. Don't reach the end of your life and have regrets. On that note, I'm going to get out of here. But I appreciate all of you for taking time out of your day to watch this. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Being able to tell other people's stories so they're not forgotten. It's an honor and it's humbling. So we will be back in the next video. From where? That's anybody's guess. Appreciate all of you.